Hey guys, Over the Rage here. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to my review of Thor Ragnarok. So I mentioned in my Infinity Wars trailer breakdown that I was going to do a review for this, and I meant to do this sooner, but I also wanted to sit down and sort of compile my thoughts. I didn't want to rush this review too much. I wanted to think long and hard about the movie, and I wanted to basically go over my own experience and not have sort of not really nostalgia glasses, but sort of biased towards Marvel because I love Marvel movies so much. I wanted to make sure that I took a long time to think of any possible problems with the film, which I basically couldn't come up with anything other than personal choices that I would have done differently, but nothing that actually harms the film. So, basically, Thor Ragnarok. The rundown is this: you have Thor and Loki. And Loki, as you know, in the end of Dark World. So, spoiler: I'm going to spoil a lot of Dark World in this trailer, in this review as well, because it's important. So, at the end of Thor: Dark World, Loki basically fakes his own death and then sneaks into Asgard and gets rid of Odin, right? And I assumed he died. I assumed he would actually have killed Odin, but I guess that wasn't the case. I guess maybe he's not so much of a monster to kill his own father, but he basically used his illusions to take over Odin's place, and so he could become king of Asgard, which he's always wanted. But nobody knew he was Odin. And in this one, Thor is off basically trying to stop Ragnarok from happening. So while he's off fighting this like big demon monster thing in the beginning of the film, Loki's been running Asgard while he's been away. So then he gets back to Asgard. Heimdall has apparently been like fired as the Bifrost Keeper, or the Watchman of the Bifrost, or whatever his title is, and he's replaced Heimdall with this new guy Scourge, which he's hilarious. But basically, Thor comes back, sees that Odin is not Odin, and he can clearly see through his brother's illusion. He's like, "This is not Odin. Like, come on." And so he basically exposes Loki. Then he goes to Earth with Loki to go find their father, who apparently Loki left in an old folks' home, which is hilarious in itself. But when they finally do find Odin on Earth, they basically Odin tells them about Hela, who is their actual sister, who was Odin's firstborn, but she's the goddess of death, and blah blah blah. And so basically Odin had to seal her away, and if she should ever get out, then she'll come, take over Asgard, and basically destroy the whole universe, and be, like, fucking evil empress of everywhere. So that is basically the rundown of what the film is about. It's about Thor and Thor trying to stop Ragnarok, but at the same time trying to also wrangle his brother, which he's never been able to do to begin with. So the film was great, I have to say. Let me just start off by saying this was a great movie, another hit for Marvel. There are like very few instances in Marvel movies where I ever look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that doesn't work," or "That's really stupid. I don't like that." Or I'm like, "Wow, how the fuck could that go in the film? You know, what's wrong with you people?" No, I never have that feeling. I really always feel like the writers, I don't know if it's the same writer for every single one of these movies. I'm not sure, but it feels like they have a consistency. They have sort of this uniformity without so much of like sort of a, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's like each of these films has their own feeling and own universe to it, but they all have the same sort of feeling when it comes to the writing. The writing is never bad, or it's not so bad as to completely ruin the film or make no sense in the moment. So let's talk about a few of the characters first. So first off, Scourge, who I mentioned earlier. He is played by Kurt Urban, and Kurt Urban, fantastic actor. Been in many things. He was in Lord of the Rings. He's in the new Star Trek. He's the Doctor. Well, not the new Star Trek series, but the new Star Trek movies. He's Bones on the new Star Trek. And he's a fine actor. And one of the best scenes in the movie is he's just like, "Look at all my stuff." He's like, I am the guardian of the Bifrost," and he's like talking to these like basically hoes of these Asgardian hoes that are just sort of hanging around, and he's just like, "Look at all of my stuff that I got from Earth," or he calls it Midgard, but he says, "I got all this stuff from Midgard," and it's like there's like a moped and comic books and like crates of stuff. It's like, it's so weird. And he walks around. He actually walked around the whole movie with these two M16s on his back, right? that he found in Texas. He doesn't know how to pronounce Texas, so he calls it Texas. I love that. But Scourge was an interesting character. And then let's see who else. Thor, obviously, big character. He had some good character development in this film. I feel like he was less stoic than before. I think they drastically changed the way he worked. So, like, in Thor and then in Thor Dark World, he always had this sort of stoic thespian feel. You know, he's like, oh, you dare challenge the son of Odin with such puny a weapon. You know, it's like he had that kind of demeanor. And now it seems like he's become this down-to-earth character. You know, he seems like he's evolved and he's learned that the universe isn't what he thought. He's gone from being a naive child thinking that, I am a god and this is that and that's this. And he's kind of learning to be a normal dude. And in this film, he shows that a lot more, and it's a lot funnier. This film is 10 times more upbeat and funny than the other Thor movies, and that's personally a bad thing for me, and I don't like that, but at the same time, I get it, and it worked, and I was laughing the whole movie, and it was just a great experience. I would have still preferred for Thor to stay his stoic self, but it's the Marvel Universe. They're going to get a little silly at times, and I'm okay with that, as long as it works. If they would have been making mile-a-minute bad jokes the whole time that made no sense, then I probably wouldn't be as lenient, but I'll accept it. I'll accept the funny, sort of everyman Thor that they're going for in this movie. So then you had Hela. I don't know if I should talk about Hela yet, or Loki. I'll get to Loki in a minute. Let's talk about Hela. So Hela's the big bad guy in this film, or bad girl, as it were. So she is basically Odin's firstborn, and as it turns out, the reason Asgard is like so prosperous and it's this big shining city of gold and all this was because Odin had his daughter Hela as his general, and she became like the goddess of death, and she was basically just there to do all the dirty work for Odin. And she was winning all the battles, killing off all the enemies of Asgard, securing this empire. And then, as Hela tells it, Odin got soft, and when Thor was born, and he decided to be a benevolent god, and to, use her own words. So he but she wanted to keep expanding the empire, so Odin locked her away. She's an interesting character, though I feel like she could have been more interesting. I feel like she could have been sort of not really an extra character, but a character that could have spanned 2 movies. Somebody, not really as awesome as Thanos, but still up there. It feels like, it's kind of like the Red Skull in Captain America. It feels like such a good character. It's sad to see such an interesting character actually vanish after just one film because they're gone, they're dead, game over. But, who knows? We might see her again. She might have somehow be reconstituted or something because, at the end of Thor Ragnarok, all of Asgard blows up. So there's that. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting character. But that's Hela. She didn't impress me as much as I thought she would. I thought she would be a little more, kind of like I don't know why I was expecting sort of a Heath Ledger Joker feel from her. I was expecting sort of this, I am an almighty, all-powerful goddess of death, and I can kill you with a snap of my fingers, but I'm going to toy with you first. I was expecting that sort of attitude, and no, she just sort of tried to play the role of her father, of being a god, and, making ultimatums the whole film, rather than just messing with people, which I guess that's Loki's domain, to mess with people and make jokes and kind of, just be funny. But yeah, speaking of Loki, let's talk about Loki in this film. Loki in this film was actually interesting because he seemed to sort of start being a good guy and then not, and then was again. I mean, Loki's just still playing the wild card, and he's still not picking a side. He's still looking after his own skin. It was interesting. So basically, the way it progressed was Loki was impersonating Odin. Then Thor found him, yoinked him to Earth to go find Odin. And then they both end up, then after Hela gets released, they both they all end up in the Bifrost going back to Asgard. But then Thor and Loki get knocked out of the Bifrost, and end up on like this trash planet where like anything that's outside the normal realms goes. So if you get knocked out of a Bifrost or something, then you end up here, right? So this is like the place where all the lost things go, and this is where the Grand Master is, where he's on this junk planet, and that's also where Hulk wound up. So we have this sort of interesting dynamic between Thor and Loki going on, where Loki seems to like, sort of do his own thing, but at the same time is trying to do good. I don't know. It's almost like he can't decide if he's a good guy or not. He has these moments where he seems like a good guy, and then he stops being the good guy and goes back to being the bad guy. Whereas in previous films, he was never the good guy. So we could be seeing Loki actually turn against Thanos in Infinity War. It might be a ploy that Loki has, or he could just be, he could have just had a momentary lapse of judgment in this film and decided, okay, I need to be good, or at least appear to be good, for 2 seconds to get Thor to trust me. I think that's more of his angle. But yes, Loki actually in this film at the end, he goes to basically help blow up Asgard because that's the only way to stop Hela, because she draws her power directly from Asgard. And he on his way to the relic room, he stops. There's this scene where he stops and he looks over to the Tesseract, and he's like, And so, like, he's going to grab that. And it was confirmed in Infinity War that he did get the Tesseract. And there was a scene in the Infinity War trailer that he has the Tesseract, and I guess he's holding it up to Thanos, like, here, take this and don't kill me. I'm still on your side, sort of thing. But yeah, Loki, as usual, fantastic actor, fantastic character, still playing his mischievous self. But again, like, there were those weird moments where he seemed good, but I think that might have just been a ploy to get Thor to trust him for 2 seconds so he could betray him again. And Thor even acknowledges this. It was an actually interesting part where Loki tries to, he goes to turn on this alarm to signal the guards that they're trying to steal a ship. And Thor's like, oh, brother, yeah, I know about you and your tricks and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out Thor already knew he was going to betray him, so he stuck this little taser thing on his neck, and then he just leaves him there with it on. So Loki's sitting there going, just having a seizure on the floor for like 10 minutes as Thor leaves in the ship. It's great. It's absolutely great. But yeah, so even in a world, like, it didn't have Thor being stupid and naive enough to fall for his brother's tricks for a third movie. He's like, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing this again. I know you are a piece of shit, okay? You keep trying to betray me. I keep trusting you. This is not working out. So, I can see this shit coming. You're so predictable. But yeah, interesting. And now let's get to best character. Best character in this whole film was Korg, the rock guy. It was awesome. He was just like, it's great. Korg was this dude that was made of rock, and he was basically a gladiator in the Grandmaster's arena. So that's where Hulk is, and Hulk is the champion, but Korg is like one of the little dudes that does the warm-up fights to get the crowd pumped, and then before you get to the main event, right? So Korg is this rock dude, and it's cool because he's got like this soft-spoken Australian accent, and it's hilarious. I don't know the actor, but it's absolutely hilarious, and he's also got this little insect robot dude named Meek with him. And he's like an insect inside of a little robot suit. And he's got knives for hands. He's like, and when you first meet him, he's like, hey man, I'm Korg. I'm a big rock monster, and this is Meek. He's got knives for hands. So you're here. Oh, and that's Doug. Say hi, Doug. Oh no, Doug's dead. Doug was the last guy to fight the champion. He's like, yeah, that's Doug. He fought the champion before. He's like, okay. And Thor goes off to fight the champion. He's like, bye, new Doug. It's like, oh god. All right. So then Hulk. Let's also talk about Hulk. So Hulk was in this film, but it wasn't actually Hulk. It wasn't actually like Bruce Banner in this film. It was Hulk in this film. And Bruce Banner shows up for a little bit, but when he shows up, he's still in the mindset that it's 2 years ago. It's just after what happened to the Avengers. And he's like, did we win? Did we defeat Ultron? And it's like, yeah, okay. So you have, that happens. And basically when he was Hulk in the last film, in Age of Ultron, in Age of Ultron, when Bruce Banner is Hulk, he flies off as Hulk, and everybody assumes, okay, he's going to turn back into Bruce Banner at some point, but he doesn't. He lands on this junk planet and remains Hulk, and Hulk becomes his own entity, his own, and you can even see some of that come through in Age of Ultron when, I don't think it was Age of Ultron, my apologies, I think it was Avengers. in the first Avengers film, Bruce Banner actually says, I got low and I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So he didn't say my alter ego. He didn't say Hulk. He said the other guy. So that kind of hinted towards Hulk actually being his own entity, which has been in the comics and in the animated films before, but not in the actual MCU, and I don't think we'll ever see that, the Planet Hulk storyline, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, I liked it. I liked Hulk being his own personality. He was very big and dumb, so he had very simple sentences. He didn't have the same demeanor as Banner, and Hulk was just angry the whole film, because that's Hulk's spiel. He's angry all the time. But yeah, it was interesting. Really, really interesting for Hulk to get his own character in this film and be so drastically different from Banner. And Hulk even says it. He's like, Banner's smart, me angry, me better than Banner. It's like, yeah, Hulk's trying to be his own dude. And it's pretty cool. I like that. So what else about this film? So then there was like the Grand Master, which is the guy running Junk Planet. I liked his character, but I really didn't give a shit about his character. The movie was about Thor and Hulk and Ragnarok. I didn't care what the Grand Master was doing with his Junk Planet. It wasn't a world that I'd want to be in forever. It was sort of this Guardians of the Galaxy feeling planet where I was like, all right, this is cool, but let's move on. Let's get back to the superheroes now. Not to knock the planet or the scenes or anything. The costumes were great. The location was great. The special effects were great. But I wasn't invested heavily in the Grand Master. He was there as sort of a comic character, and he was there as like the funny, bad guy running the planet sort of deal. He was just that guy. He was just this sort of guy to keep the story moving, and he didn't actually really affect much other than being the head of the junk world. That's about all it was. He was just the god of junk world. That's about it. But yeah, so what else about this film? There was a distinct, like I said before, they went in a completely different direction with this. They know that they want to make this an action comedy, and that's exactly what it is. It's an action superhero comedy, and it's funny. There's jokes everywhere, but they're not bad jokes. The timing on the jokes is great. The type of jokes they were is great. You just feel good when you're watching this film. This is a feel-good superhero film. If you ever want to sit down and watch a movie and it doesn't even take that long to get into the jokes. Usually these films take forever to actually get to the good parts, and that's kind of the case in most movies. And then you get to this, Thor Ragnarok. I mean, first 5 minutes, it's just joke. It's just a joke here, a joke there, but then it gets to very serious moments. Now, they didn't feel as serious. Again, I think that's a problem of having so much of this be a comedy and not be super serious. But at the same time, it could have also been that you really didn't care about like the stakes, because you knew that the heroes have to win. Like they have to get set up for Infinity War. So it's really, there's not really too much at stake here, other than a few characters dying. Speaking of characters dying, actually, let me go back to Scourge for a minute. So the guy I said before that was basically the new Watcher of the Bifrost, whatever that title is, the Guardian of the Bifrost, whatever it is. His character was interesting because it felt like he was, I don't know how to explain it. His character felt conflicted and yet sort of kind of predictable. It was sort of a cliched type of thing, like, okay, I'm this dude, I'm badass, and I'm the whatever, the Watchman of the Bifrost, and I'm cool, that sort of douchebag mentality. And then later in the film, he's doing all these things for Hela, and he's just going along, and he's trying to basically save his own skin. And then he's hiding in the ship as they're leaving Asgard, and there's like these the undead soldiers that Hela can raise from the dead because she's like a necromancer. They're crawling onto the ship, and he just comes out of the corner with the two M16s that he got from Texas, and he's like, for Asgard, and he just jumps in. It's like he gets that little spark of like, okay, I need to save these people because I at heart am a good person. But it's also sort of a predictable arc, like, okay, dude that's just looking out for himself all of a sudden becomes a hero. Okay, we've seen that a lot of other times, and I'm actually kind of sad to see Scourge die, because Kurt Urban would have been cool to see recur in the actual MCU. that would have been neat to see him interact with Thor more and do some of that. Again, another character I would have liked to see go further, but it felt like they just sort of had it to set up Thor Ragnarok and everything, and have it to where Thor becomes king. You know, that's basically what this movie was setting up Thor as the head of the Asgardians and setting everything up for Infinity War. It was more of a setup film, and it's still a good film. Not, being a setup doesn't make it worse. It's just I wish more of this film would have been put out there. You know, there would have been this could have been a 2-part movie, is what I'm saying. Is they could have spent more time in certain sections and had more time between scenes. They could have done, Thor Ragnarok Part 1 and Part 2. Like, that would have been cool to see 2 completely different movies. And in Part 1, Hela takes over Asgard and kills everybody, and Thor's still stuck on the junk planet. Then Part 2, you rally the troops and you take over Asgard, and then there you go. And then you're finally set up for Infinity War. I think that'd be neat. But other than that, what else? I can't really think of much else. There's really nothing to critique this film on. Absolutely nothing. You'd think, okay, that's just bias talking. There's really not. Go watch it for yourselves. I challenge you to find me one scene, one piece of dialogue, one moment of character in this film that ruins the film or is such a big part of the film that it just, causes the rating to go down or is something worth critiquing. There's really nothing worth critiquing in this film. But yeah, I think that's it, honestly. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing. Thor's hammer, right? With the like, as you can see in the trailer, Hela crushes the hammer because she's super powerful. So Hulk doesn't, I'm sorry, Thor doesn't have Mjolnir anymore. Mjolnir is gone. It's dead. It's over. So he's gonna go into Infinity War without Mjolnir, which is kind of odd to see Hulk without his hammer, or Thor. My God, I'm mixing them up, and I don't know why. But it's so weird to see Thor without his hammer. But it also shows more character development in that, because his hammer's destroyed. The hammer was only there to channel his power. Odin even says this in the film. He says, hey, I didn't give you that hammer to be your power. I gave you that hammer to channel your power. What are you, Thor, the god of hammers? He actually says that, and I love that line. So Thor has this little vision of his father, and his father's been dead already, but he has this vision of his father. He's like, I've failed you, father. I've lost my powers. It's like, you're not the god of hammers. You're the god of thunder. Do it. It's like, oh, okay. And so Thor basically unleashes his inner beast and is able to actually channel electricity through him. And he actually was about to beat Hulk in the Colosseum because of that. So while they're on the junk planet, while they're fighting, he comes like this close, like super close to beating Hulk using that power. He's about to just lay it on Hulk and mess his world up. But then he gets the Grand Master hits the little taser thing on his neck and makes him pass out. So to make it so that Hulk wins and continues being the champion, right? And yeah, it's interesting that Thor is that powerful. Now, then in Infinity Wars, Thanos is just going to come up and just, backhand him, and he's gone, dead, out of there. Because, I mean, all this is really cool with what's happening in the MCU. Because you're seeing all these super powerful beings, like Thor and, Iron Man's Hulkbuster and everything. You're seeing all this power and all this might, and they're so much better than all their enemies. They're beating the shit out of all these people. But then you're going to get to Infinity War, and Thanos is going to make fools of them all. He's just going to go slapping the shit out of every Avenger like it's nothing, because he is Thanos. It's crazy, the scaling of power levels that has been happening. But yeah, I think that's it for Thor Ragnarok. Go out and see it. It's great. I would gladly give it a 10 out of 10. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then do the usual. Like, subscribe, check out my streams. I will see you guys in the next video. Reap the Rager, signing off.